Okay, so instead of looking at the questions, what I'm going to suggest we do is I'm just going to walk you through all the 7 prompts of the Common App. And at the end of that, whatever questions you have, you can ask me. Let me first give you a rundown on how to attempt these, what kind of responses are we looking for in the 7 Common App ones. Okay. So we'll start with the first one. I'm not going to read out the questions to you because you probably know them. First, so I'll read as I go on. First one is some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful that they believe the application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, share your story. So in counseling terms, we call it, there's a lot of noise.
Sorry, is not if your voice is cracking. We're not getting words.
Yeah, a lot of background noise. I don't know. So in counseling verbiage, we call it the catch-all. You can write about anything that interests you. Okay. And almost 50%, 42% students attempt this essay. This is the most popular essay amongst all. Okay. And basically, to write about a big experience is like critical. It can be small, but it has shaped who you are. It is made you simple. But what you need to keep in mind is that it is interesting and very specific. So a good way to
Sorry,
start.
Namita, sorry to interrupt you. Namita, it's not very clear actually. Your voice is breaking up. So, can
Should I use the earplugs? Should I use earplugs? Let me try.
I don't know whether that. Because your voice is, we are getting it in bits and pieces.
Hello, is that better?
Yeah, so far.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. So the first one is about the background identity interest that is so meaningful that you believe your story would be incomplete without it. So you can talk of any big experience that you've had or even a small experience that you had. I know of a child who wrote about meeting the Dalai Lama and how it changed her forever. Now that is a 1 day experience or a 1 hour experience, but it shaped the person she was. It made her relook at her life. It gave her direction. She decided to, work with the community more, and many things that touched her. She started writing a biography for the school on him, just a small little booklet, a handout. And so that is something that was very meaningful to her life. On the other interest, on the other side, it could be an interest you have. If you're a musician, for example, then that is defines who you are. You practice for your music, you perform your music, you keep trying to learn new things. All of that again, if we were to talk about you're incomplete without the music part. On the third could be an identity. Are you a child who has studied in 7 schools in 12 years? Then that has shaped you who you are. You are the person you are because you have moved so many schools. You've learned to adjust, you've learned to adapt, you've learned to make friends quickly. So your story is not complete without mentioning that. What I was saying in the beginning was that before you even start writing these essays, write down 3 points about yourself, which is different from all your friends. Okay. So don't say, I live in Sharjah and so I'm different from many other people. We are talking of the people in your class. Okay. And of course, the world in general. Is there something about you that makes you different? If you write these 3 things and which is special to you, you'll find that you'll be able to fit them in a lot of your essays. Okay. So do this exercise even before you speak. So coming back to the catch-all first question, then it could be an identity. It could be that you are an army child who's moved cities every year because your friends got promoted. So that makes you the person you are. Okay. So this first question of the Common App is probably the easiest to do because we all have something that we would like to share about ourselves. So that is the catch-all essay one. The essay two is the failure essay. The lessons we learn from failure can be fundamental to later success. Recount an incident or time when you experienced failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from that experience? So, this is asking you about the obstacles you faced and how you overcame them. So, this is as much about success as it is about resilience. So, it is not just, and please avoid those trite, I got poor grades in class 10, I lost a football match. Nobody's interested. Everybody got poor grades sometime or the other. Everybody lost a match or lost the student council voting section. And also, what I would say for this, don't write about a bad judgment that you made. Oh, I got drunk one night. No. This is, I don't know what in Sharjah you can drink, but by and large, a lot of kids write about. Or I got into a relationship where he didn't love me back, like that. So those are just bad judgment examples. 20% of children choose the failure essay. I read a very interesting one recently. It was about this girl who decided to turn vegan. Okay. So obviously not going to have milk, cookies, butter, ice cream, everything, because she's not going to have dairy. Her parents were horrified. You know how Indian parents are. If you don't have milk, how will you grow? Your muscles will not grow, your brain will not grow. Basically, you will die. You know. And so she took on a whole family, had this big battle at home, and decided to go vegan. She lived in Singapore. She went to an international school. Suddenly, there was nothing in the canteen for her to eat. She couldn't go out with her friends because they were going for pizza night or burger parties or whatever. She was the odd one out looking for food that was vegan. Then suddenly realized that she's written it very well about how rice ice cream doesn't taste the way milk ice cream tastes. And eventually, she had to on being vegan for 2, 3 reasons. And then she explained the reasons. She said, number one, I found that I need to be financially independent to be vegan because all vegan food is very, very expensive. And it's not fair for me to put this pressure on my parents who don't agree with me in case. Secondly, I also have to have matured enough to have the resilience to take on my friends and still have friends who will stand by me even though I cannot go out and eat with them most of the time. So she said, I'm going to revisit this. I'm committed because she was part of PETA and she was into animals and she was into all those things. So it fitted in with her story as well. But her whole take was that now is not the right time. I have failed forever. I will come back to this. She wrote, so if you can see, she's written about the obstacles she felt along the way. She wrote about the resilience that she had. She also said that someday I will be successful. Even though I failed today, that is not to say I've given up forever. So that's the kind of failure essay. I want you to showcase your resilience, strength when you talk about a failure essay. Not that, I failed and I'm failed now. That's no point. They want to see the positive. Okay. So keep that in mind. If you were to choose this essay, you have to be positive. Okay. The third essay is about belief. Reflect on a time when you challenged a belief or idea. What prompted you to act? And would you make the same decision again? Again, this essay is about morals and values. Are there some moral or ethical issue that is critical to you, that you think is very important and you want to challenge the world for it? Okay. And this is quite a challenging question because it wants you to talk about big things, morals, values, ethics. These are very big things for you all who are 17, 18 years old. But in 650 words. So you're talking of these life-changing things, but just in a few words. So just 12, 13% children choose this essay. Let me give you an example of this one as well. I had a student again in India, actually, who wrote about, her grandmother lived with them and they used to be vegetarian on Tuesdays. And it's pretty common. You're non-veg the whole week, but Tuesday it's vegetarian, And she just said, I don't believe either we're vegetarian or we're not vegetarian. And what is this Tuesday got to do with it? And so she again had this big, and she just stood by it, and said that no. And there were other things that her grandmother felt that, if you're having periods, you can go to the temple. If you wash your hair, you shouldn't do it on Tuesdays, and all those kind of superstitions. But she, in her essay, fortunately took on only one aspect, which was the vegetarian bit. And so she also wrote a very nice essay. She said, I fought this battle. The more I fought with my grandmother, more she prayed for me. Kept thinking that I'm going to go to hell having this conversation. And so she said that at the end of it, what I've realized is that there are some things you can't challenge, And then she spoke about philosophy and theory of knowledge. She was an IB student. How they've been asked to question these kind of things. Do you believe in euthanasia? So that's a good, do you believe in easy killing? Do you believe in abortion? So these are the kind of big issues, but you have to make them personal to yourself. They cannot be just grand debates on world issues. It has to be personal to you as an individual. So this is the belief one. Okay. Is there a lot of echo?
No. We can hear yourself, I think.
Okay. It's better now. Okay. The essay number 4 is the problem essay. Describe a problem you've solved or a problem that you'd like to solve. It can be an intellectual challenge, a research query, an ethical dilemma. Anything that is of personal importance, no matter what the scale. Explain its significance to you and what steps you've taken to identify a solution. Okay, so 10% students choose this one, the problem essay. And again, it should be linked to you in a meaningful way. And you also need to show the steps that you took to solve it. There is always a worry that you'll write about an intellectual challenge. But this is not about that. So don't write about that physics topic that stumped you forever and ever and about how you solved that problem. Because this is not about academics. This is about a problem and how you solve. So the how is more important than the problem itself. Yes, you have to give a background, but it could be a small problem. Your best friend, for example, cheated in a test, and she's decided that you are the only one who knows it, that she was cheating. Now she's your best friend. Should you tell? Should you not tell? That is an ethical problem. It's an intellectual problem. You want to maintain your friendship, but do you want to squeal on your friend? So I'm looking at those kind of ethical dilemmas. It could be a research problem if you feel that there is something in your economics class. So say, for example, you were researching that India lives, 40% of India lives under the poverty line, 23%, whatever it may be. What are the causes for it? But you have to write about its significance to you and how you found solutions. But don't take on such a huge problem like India's poverty because you alone cannot find the solution to it. Okay, so keep it micro, keep it personal, and then try and find solutions. So this is the problem essay. Then there is a transition essay, which is essay number 5. Discuss an accomplishment or event, formal or informal, that marked your transition from childhood to adulthood within your culture, community, or family. Again, the event has to be big for you, but you have to write it in 650 words. If I was 18 right now, I would write about. So I'm a Sikh, okay, and I was 1 year older than you are when the 1984 riots happened, and I think it changed me forever. I never thought of my religion as anything. I mean, I wasn't even religious. We weren't a religious family. We, I studied in a Christian Catholic school. I knew the Catholic prayers better than I knew the the hymns that we all sing. I don't speak Punjabi. There was nothing religious about me at all. My father is Maharashtrian. I mean, he's from Pune. He speaks Marathi. He doesn't speak Punjabi. And then suddenly one day there are the 84 riots, and we have 200, 300 people outside our house killing us simply because we are Sardars, you know. And at 18, I was in first year college. I, for the first time, grew up. I mean, I never experienced, I never thought India is that kind of country. I never thought religion mattered in India. Of course, India has changed now. Now we are a religious country, you know. But I'm talking of many years ago, in 84, we were not a religious country. There was no overt exhibition of religion at all. So that, I would say, was my transition from childhood into adulthood. Recently, a child wrote to me about losing his friends and his friends' parents in the Bombay hotel uh, 7/11. What was it? 9,
9/11.
whatever. It was a 9/11. What happened in Bombay?
26/11.
Yeah. And a lot of those kids that I was working with that year all studied at Cathedral. And Cathedral is right in South Bombay. A lot of them lived there. Their parents were in both Taj and Oberoi the night that the shootings happened. And I think for them, it was a transition from childhood into adulthood. You go back to school the next day and you have children who have died, or you have children who've lost their parents. So these are rather big examples, and hopefully you never have to face any of this. But if you have a death in the family, if you have a parent who is very sick, or a grandparent, and you all are taking care of that parent at home, and some of the responsibility comes on you, like your parents work, and in the evening you are taking care of your grandmother and she has Alzheimer's or something where she needs your support. All those are growing up experiences within your family, within your for you. Okay, so the transition essay is about growing up, because it very clearly says you are transiting from childhood to adulthood within your family. It can be, in my case, it was community. In somebody else's case, the mother, grandmother is ill, or mother is ill. It could be family. And in terms of the Bombay shootings, it's almost a country. We all transitioned from who we were before Bombay happened, Mumbai attacks happened, to after who we were. So this is the transition essay, and 10% of children choose the transition. Okay, essay number 6 is basically what I call my essay hell, because it's a very tough topic. Describe a topic, idea, or concept that you find so engaging that you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So the last part is easy. You want to learn more about something, you'll have somebody you turn to. If nobody else, you have Google. But what is that something? So here you need to show critical thinking, reasoning, analytical abilities, and insights in action in a personal statement and your essay. So what you have to find a topic, a problem, an idea, and then relate it to yourself. And once you have that story in place, it's easy for you to go forward. So say, for example, you have somebody. Now, I had one child who loved arguing. He was a debater, basically. Debating was his thing. And he said that, he told me that, sometimes we are watching TV at night and there's some debate happening on TV. And I just want to jump into the TV. I have so many things to say, and I'm all the time wanting to say them. So as a result, at dinner time, it's a battlefield. We are just debating things because I have a view on everything, you know. But he chose one thing, which was about religion. And I don't usually recommend essays on religion. But again, he said, everything has to say, every time has to argue. My grandmother, who was sitting there and who lived with us, would have a view and say that, God, this one is always questioning things. So he took off from that. I wouldn't recommend religion as a topic. So you need to find something that you find so engaging that you lose all track of time. Now it's very easy for boys or girls to say there are video games that I find so engaging I lose track of time. Facebook is another thing that I find engaging and I lose track of time. But sorry, that will not do. And you need to really think this through. I don't have too many examples to give you because most kids do tend to choose this topic because it either becomes very academic. So, they choose a topic which is academic, something like in physics, math, or something. Or they tend to choose something which I wouldn't recommend, writing about religion or, you know, gay rights or things like that. Okay, so that is what I call my essay hell essay. And then last is the do whatever you want card. So share an essay on any topic of your choice. It can be one you've already written, one that responds to a different prompt, or one that. So please, it's not an essay topic that you've done in school. That is not what we want here. So please don't say, oh, I wrote this brilliant literature essay and now I can just put it here as my Common App essay. No, it's not academic. You can write, if you really have something that you've been wanting to write about. I had a child who wrote about his journey and it didn't fit into anything. So he, sort of lived in the school, in the house that he was born in. His school was down the road and it was a fancy Delhi school. And when he was in 10th grade, this school, modern school in Delhi, they decided that in the afternoon they are going to have classes for the slum children around Basant Vihar. And these children would come, they would use the desks and chairs, and some of these children would go to volunteer. And he wrote an essay of my journey, my walk every afternoon from India to Bharat. And it was a very well written essay because he said everything changed between morning and afternoon. I went to my fancy school in the morning and I was there with all my kids, all the kids that were my age and my economic background. And then suddenly in the afternoon, our school was for the underprivileged children. And so he didn't harp too much about the children or anything, but he talked about the dichotomy of these two worlds we live in. We live in a fancy condominium building, but right next door there is a construction site where the poorest of the poor live, who don't have food to eat, who don't have clean water. And here they are building these brilliant houses that we are going to live in. So if you have a story to tell which doesn't fit into any of these 6 topics, then this is your place to put that story down. You'll have to, and he gave his topic. The topic of his story was also India to Bharat, and so it was a very well written essay, and I was very impressed with it. So those are our 7 prompts. Any questions at this point? Anything you want to ask me?
So, she said it's the most difficult one. That's exactly. So, is it for
Sorry?
chat me louder? So, she's talking about the 6th essay that we were talking about.
The sixth one.
Very difficult to write.
Yeah, yeah. How can you have a question to ask me, or you want me to give you some more examples, or what?
Is it okay if we write on an academic topic?
I
Is it
can't
okay?
hear.
Is it okay to write on an academic topic?
On academics?
Academics, yes.
No,
No? Excellent.
no.
Really, thank you.
Before all else, I want to tell you that this essay is the reason you're asked to write essays for America, that they are your written interviews. The American colleges, there are 5,000 colleges in America. All the colleges want that child to come to them who will be happy there. Okay, so they want to be able to actually know you. There are places that are rural America, they are suburban America, they are very large universities, they're very small universities. Just your class would be the whole undergrad class would be just 1,200 children. On the other hand, you have Boston University and all with 40,000 students. So what happens in America is there's a lot of attrition and transfer. Many children transfer because they're not happy. By and large, we all are more resilient as international. We don't tend to go this route. But I know so many international students who transfer. Now, obviously the universities don't do this. So they want to understand you as a person. Will you fit in? If it's a very white Caucasian university with most children coming from the neighborhood of the state, and you are this one international student or a handful of international students, it is actually very worrisome because many of the kids will go home on the weekend and you have nowhere to go. Okay, it's unlikely that in that neighborhood you have somebody you can go to, and so it can become very lonely. So for all these reasons, your counselor will also tell you how to choose universities well. They are rural universities. Middlebury is in the middle of nowhere, but has lots of international students, gives lots of scholarships to international, and they attract them like that. So now, if I was to meet you, or you're looking at me and you're meeting, we are physically next to each other, there is a body language. I can very quickly, when I'm interviewing somebody, know if the person is an introvert, an extrovert, um, is very assertive, has a point of view, has clarity of thought. So many things in the few questions that I can ask. Ideally, they would like to do that, but they can't. They want to know more about you beyond your grades, beyond your SAT scores, beyond the courses you've taken. They want to know about you as a person. So whilst writing these essays, you have to keep telling yourself, are they getting to know me better? Not physics as a subject, not 84 riots and what happened there, not any of that. It is how it impacted me, how have I grown, how have I changed, what were the circumstances that made me the person I am, and how am I now today as a result of that. So all this, how did I react to a certain situation? So keep reminding yourself while writing your essays, this is your written interview. They want to know more about you, not about your grades, not all in your transcript data. What you studied in the school profile, what syllabi you are doing, everything goes to them. Your school is sending all that. So they don't need to know all that, and they don't need to know about academics. They don't need to know that you failed one class in one subject in half yearly exams in class. I mean, that is also on your transcript. So it's really about your personality. Any other questions?
Yes, you have to be in first person of that, right? As an outsider observing.
I think you'll have to repeat that question, Colette. I can't hear anything.
Does the essay need to be, you need to be the first person, or you can be the third person in the essay?
Ideally, I think it should be first person because you're talking about yourself. You don't get too esoteric on all of this and try and sort of pretend to be someone else writing about something. The questions are quite directly towards you. How do you react to failure? How do you do this? How do you do that? So first person will do fine. Okay. Okay, now I also want to talk to you about what kind of essays. Would you like me to go on beyond the main common app essays to the supplementary essays, or are we stopping at main common app?
We can go on if we have time.
Okay, so first let me just give you some do's and don'ts, basically, what you should do and what you shouldn't do. Okay, so
No,
number one,
sorry.
must make your essay interesting and readable. Okay, if your essay is boring, they give some 3 minutes to your essay. And if you lose them in the first 30 seconds, then they're never going to bother with that essay again. So your beginning should be interesting. It should keep them hooked on and wanting to read more about yourself. So don't give away the crux of the matter in the first paragraph. Keep them wondering what. Of course, the first paragraph should tell them exactly which topic you're addressing and what your topic is and all of that. But keep it interesting. The other day I was reading an essay here in Singapore from this child who's an NS student. So he's doing national service. I don't know if you know, but military service is compulsory for all boys in Singapore. So they do 2 years of military service. So he started his essay about how, he is in NS, and it was, so he started off quite boringly saying, I joined NS after high school, and national service is mandatory for all Singaporean men. And he said it was just over a year back that I was standing in a line with 200 other bald young men waiting to get enlisted in the army. So all I did for him was I started with, it was only less than a year back that I was standing with 200 bald young men enlisting in the army. Just that beginning, instead of saying NS is compulsory for the military, this, that, and all for Singapore, just that hook, I changed the beginning for him. His words, move them around so that the minute even I read, less than 200, less than a year back, I was standing with 200 kids, 200 bald young men enlisting for the Singapore Army. I want to know more. Yeah. So why is he telling me this story? What happened? Did it go well? Did it go badly? Did all these bald boys survive it or not? And there's also a visual image in my head. Okay, I could just imagine these, 200 bald young cadets standing in line waiting to enlist. So must make your essay readable and interesting to the reader. You don't want them to lose interest. You also have just 650 words to do it. So you also want to make each word count. So don't get into descriptions and bore them to tears. So the first very important point to remember is your essay interesting and readable? One way to find out if it is, give it to an unknown person, somebody who doesn't know you. Okay, can you read this? And if you think that that person is sipping cups of tea in between or looking here and there or asking you questions, boring, not interesting. Okay, so get your best friend to read it. And then sometimes a best friend will say, but this doesn't show me the way you are. You're pretending to be somebody else. You are not this person at all that you're talking about all this community service and I want to be Miss India type and do good to the world. You are not this person. I've never seen you go anywhere and do this. So don't lie also. And nothing like a good friend to tip you off and tell you right from wrong. Okay. Second important point, show instead of telling. Don't tell them things. Show them what you did. You know how when we were in kindergarten, we would say, this is a water bottle, and then show it instead of telling about it. So it's like that, They read a lot of essays, thousands of essays, and often just spend a few minutes or even seconds reading your essay. So you have to be able to be sure you're not writing a descriptive essay. You need to show the reader how you were impacted by a situation or by an experience. You're not describing endlessly that situation or that experience. So, like I said, one line says, I met the Dalai Lama on a school trip to Mussoorie. And then the whole essay is about how it impacted her. Okay? Not about then, we entered and then the Dalai Lama was sitting, there were 300 people, but I was the lucky one who was in front of the line. So I got to shake hands with him and nobody wants to know all this. Okay. You got to meet him. That's good enough. Now what? So, so think about your topic carefully. Be sure that you have it to write about that event or that experience, and then choose it and put forward your thoughts with clarity and with confidence. And if you make it interesting, that's really what we're looking for. Okay. The third point is really a don't. I hate it when you use the thesaurus endless. Okay. You want to say exciting, but you're saying amazing. Now, I mean, amazing when it's in a subject, you know, I find, I find the problem solving ability of mathematics or physics exciting. The child is using amazing, extraordinary, because it's so easy. Writing on the laptop, do synonyms, add anything you feel like, And we all laugh when we read these essays where there's too much thesaurus used and too many synonyms that don't fit in. And that shouldn't be used in that circumstance. Okay. If you, so be careful about that. Please beware of synonyms. I mean, I had a student who wrote, let me show you what he wrote, although I did a plethora of activities in high school, my assiduous effects enabled me to succeed. And all he needed to really say was, although I juggled many activities in high school, I succeeded with perseverance or persistence. But he's trying to impress. Big, big words, overuse of thesaurus and synonyms. So be very careful of that also. Another don't is, please don't be pompous and conceited. I mean, we want them to like you. Don't have too many opinions and be patronizing. I really think gaze is not the thing for me. I don't know why India has made lesbian and gay behavior uh, not a crime, because I have a view on this. I think Trump is an idiot. You may just get a Trump person reading your. I may think Trump is an idiot, but that's not for me to say. Okay, so I even though I'm the brightest kid in class, I was surprised how I didn't get full marks in my math test. Please don't be a little show off. Okay, you may genuinely be the brightest. Let your teachers write about that, not you. Okay. So, no being opinionated, no being patronizing, no being. I think Indians are really smart at maths compared to everybody else. All this will not do. So, be very careful. Secondly, don't repeat yourself. Thirdly, fourthly, I don't know whatly, don't repeat yourself. Uh, if there is something on your application, your curriculars or something, you don't need to repeat them here. Sometimes you're talking about your love for music, and then you say, and I was MC in the annual day function, and all that is in your activity section. We don't need to be told about it. Okay, so be careful that if stuff has been listed somewhere in your application, it is not required to be repeated in your essay. And don't also have very long sentences. That is true for any writing. Sometimes I read a whole paragraph is one sentence, commas, semicolons, all kinds of things in one endlessly long sentence. It's too complicated, too convoluted. Please write shorter sentences and it's easier to read. Look at a good book. It shouldn't have sentences that are so long that you confuse the reader. Be direct and to the point. Another important thing that I wouldn't have had to say a few years back, but I have to say to your generation is, this is not WhatsApp. This is not Instagram. Please don't use any short forms for anything. Okay? No slang, no short forms, no over casual way of talking. Okay? This is a college admissions essay. It is a serious thing. It can be funny things, but it's a serious application. Telling them about yourself, please make sure that you give it the importance that is due to it. So no slang, no cliches, no short words or contractions, no casual tone at all. I'll give you an example, which you may not even think is a talk. It says, Well, here I am thinking about what makes me tick. You would be surprised. What really gets my goat is when people disrespect the flag. My father was in the army, and I know how important the military is to this great nation. This is not the way to write a college essay. This is not talking to your friend and you can just whatever you feel like in the most casual way. Makes me tick and gets my goat and kids, Also, so please think before you write this essay. It's not a story that you're writing for a blog. It is something very serious. Okay. Aside from that, also I want to say that you have to be very careful about punctuation, and remember that spell check doesn't do it for you all the time. Spellings and punctuation can go wrong, and you'll never know because you have over dependence on spell check. Please read it properly, print it out, read it, you'll see the mistake. I find a lot of children interchangeably using um, its and its with apostrophe, without apostrophe. They tend to use a lot of short forms. He's, you have to write I have, this is a formal piece of writing. So please don't take any shortcuts and use, vary the length of your sentences. I'm just telling you grammatical things. Sometimes one forgets. Use transitions so that you can't be so short the sentences that you sound like a baby. So I'll give you an example of that also. Okay. This child had written, I started playing the piano when I was 8 years old. I worked hard to learn difficult pieces. I began to love music. But she could have always written it like this. I started playing the piano at the age of 8. As I learned to play more difficult pieces, my appreciation for music deepened. It is giving it some character beyond just being two simple sentences also. So when I'm saying don't write a paragraph that is a sentence, I don't mean write 5 words and make a sentence. Okay. In terms of that first, in terms of also how to write, use active voice verbs. Okay. So, for example, the lessons that prepared me for college were taught to me by my mother. It's much easier to write. My mother taught me lessons that will prepare me for college. So again, first person, active voice versus passive voice. And because passive voice, when you use it too much, it makes an essay sound very flat and uninteresting. Okay, so use the active voice. And two last things. For one, get multiple opinions. After writing the essay, like I said, ask your friends and family to read it. And when they are reading it, they need to keep a couple of things in mind. Have you answered the question? Or have you just taken off doing your own thing? Okay. And so number one, have you answered the question? That's very important. Because it's very easy to meander off into something else and you've not even really answered the question. Number two, has your introduction held the interest of the reader? Or is it too boring? And has the conclusion provided a closure to this essay? So is your introduction and conclusion keeping with why we have introductions and conclusions in essay? Okay. Have I given enough examples or enough concrete experiences to support what I'm writing? Okay, it's not just theoretical. There must be things that you've actually done that happened to you that have made you feel this way or behave that way. Okay, is my sentence structure varied? Okay, to have some long sentences, some small sentences, but never a sentence that is a whole paragraph. Okay, are there any cliches? Please don't keep quoting other people. We don't want to know what Mahatma Gandhi said on everything. We don't want to know where Nelson Mandela is saying. Those are not your views. They are somebody else's views. So stick with your view. Okay, so no quotations, please. Okay, and is there anything left unclear in this? Have you forgotten to take a stance? So, if you're choosing a topic, needs you to take a stance, you must take that stance or give a concluding statement saying, okay, I believe very strongly about this. But my grandmother's religious beliefs I cannot change, and that's an area I should try to. So you have to give complete that essay. Okay. Then, does every word count? Does every sentence count? You have only 650 words. You don't want to be writing things that could be done without. Okay, just to fill the page. It's better to write a shorter essay, but make each word count, make each sentence count. And last but the most important, are you revealing parts of your personality through this that were not there in the rest of your application? Are you telling them more about yourself? You need to be very sure that that, of course, is very, very important. So to get a good essay, you must reread it, revise it, reread it, revise it, keep cutting, adding till you get it perfectly fine. No essay is going to be written in one draft or 5 drafts. It will take 10, 12 drafts before you get the essay absolutely right. Okay. Any questions on this part of do's and don'ts? Okay. Now, should we go back to the questions and see what we didn't answer in all those questions? Sorry?
We just have one question from.
Yeah. You will have to repeat it, Colette, because I can't hear the children. Could
Okay.
you repeat?
This is regarding, she said that you were initially intended to put sexual abuse under a problem, the problem essay,
Yeah.
right? But now she's wondering whether, because you had mentioned not to mention something like that in the essay, so she's wondering whether she can put it in under the general, the seventh essay that we were talking about.
Yeah. And what is the topic?
Sexual abuse.
See, I mean, I'm okay with sexual abuse. However, it has to be. I mean, I would be a little concerned about an essay like that. If it's personal, then are you wallowing in self-pity and going down that path? Or if it's about somebody else, is it just too descriptive? What have you really done to fix the problem? So it seems a little bit of a worrisome. I think you'll have to show it to somebody to know how you've attempted this question for me to get a better idea whether it works or not. Yeah, that's all I can say at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is a subject to write about feminism or
Is it okay to write about feminism or mental health?
Yeah, you can write about yourself being a feminist and what you think about it. But again, it can't get too descriptive. I mean, you have to show things you have done to be this person. Okay. I mean, I can write about being prime minister of the world, but I'm not that person, right? So one, you have to be a feminist. Then of course, which topic you're fitting this into? Are you answering the question through your feminism and the story about you being a feminist? It cannot be about somebody else's feminism, because then that's no point, because we need to know more about you. So usually the topics we tend to avoid are death, because all of you would have lost a grandparent at this point of your life, most likely. Hopefully not, but quite likely. So it is not unusual for a child to be in high school and have a grandparent die. It is a huge event. I mean, I was in college when my grandfather died, and I thought the world had come to an end. But it happens to everybody, so we avoid death because it's also a morbid topic. We also avoid divorce because again, it's very personal. We don't really want to get into that whole sphere. Remember that in America, almost every second or third child will have divorced parents. So for them, it is not the be all end all. We also avoid talking about disease. Okay, so don't get obsessed with your disease or somebody else's disease. I know a lot of children who will write about, I broke my ankle just before, boys tend to write, just before that big cricket match, and get obsessed with that. It's quite common, and if it's even I mean, you could have, if some huge disease has happened and you've recovered. I'm working with a child who had childhood cancer. So it is so much a part of his life. He has been in and out of hospitals. It would be foolish not to talk about, and in fact, before I got to know him very well, I told him that, he wanted to study biochemistry. And I told him, why don't you volunteer at the hospital? He said, I don't want to see any more hospital. And that is when I came to know about him having cancer as a child. So then I said, you cannot leave this out of your application. It is who you are, the things you don't want to do because of that. Okay, then we also don't talk about boyfriend girlfriend breakups because it's just too silly. And the last one is fancy cruises and exotic vacations your parents have taken. So all these things are avoidable. We don't really want to talk about them, but also not very strong religious beliefs or political beliefs. Don't start writing about the evil of drugs. I mean, really, we all know evil. And the essay seems very contrived. It seems as if you're trying to say the right things. I think drugs are very bad and all. You can't have an essay on your SAT scores and your school scores, like I mentioned before. I think I'm brilliant, but my SAT scores don't reflect it. Okay, and anything that will make, also anything that will make the reader blush or feel embarrassed. So some very personal story. You don't have to go down that path. And how much you hate studying. That's not a good essay. You're going to college to study, so you don't want to get into that. And what else? Also, you don't want to, on the other hand, write that I'm going to college simply because I want to earn lots of money later on, and I want to be rich. That also is not a good essay to write. And what else? Another one that all of us privileged people like to write about is how we saw these very poor people, but they were happy, and how happiness has nothing to do with money. Please, we all know how lucky you are, and we also know how lucky they are in being poor. So don't try to make them out to be very lucky because they're poor and simple and few needs and wants, because we really don't know what they're feeling. So, and lastly, and very importantly, don't write a resume. It's not about all the fancy things you did or accomplished in your life. They are in your activity section. The school accomplishments are in your recommendation. So don't write a resume. Okay. Wow, there's a lot of echo today. I don't know what the matter is. Any other questions? Should we go to the questions now?
I think we've covered most of it. They've covered most of it through
Sorry?
we have covered most of it through the web.
Yeah. So, if I look at the questions, what does a good essay consist of? I've already told you it should be interesting, it should be readable, it should be concise, every word should count, every sentence should count, it should be a topic that tells them more about yourself. All those things make for good um, essays. Okay. How can I make my essay extremely engaging? You have to make it interesting. You have to give a hook in the beginning that keeps them wanting to read more. You need to tell them more about yourself. You don't make it descriptive, otherwise it won't be engaging. Okay. What do they primarily look for in an essay? They are looking for your personality through the essay. That is the one thing they're looking for. Who are you as a person? What excites you? How do you deal with things? What do you learn from things? They just want to know you better. And all universities, how do various universities approach the essay? Basically, your read the all your data and then come to your essays to put a personality to this data. And all of them do the same thing. And if they hate your essay, so one of the things I tell children is an essay, a brilliantly written essay, cannot get you into college. You still need good grades, you need good SAT scores, you need all that. But a badly written essay can get you out of college. You can have all the good grades, all the scores, and then you write this rubbish essay, they will just throw it in the dustbin, the pile. So a bad essay can get you out of college. Okay. So what are the things to avoid in an essay? I've already told you the long list of things that you have to avoid, and most of all the synonyms. Okay. Which is the most important part of the essay? The part that tells them about you. That is the most important. Okay. How to write elaborate prompts, we've done that. Basic word limit, it's all 650 words, children, the main common app essay, but you don't have to have every last 649th word. If your essay is finished in 600 words or 500 words, that's fine. Okay. How do you know your essay is complete? When the story is complete. It's like a book. If you leave it's not a serial, that daily serial that comes on TV and that has no ending and you're waiting for next day. No, it has to have a beginning and an end and a middle. So then you know when the ending is complete that your essay is complete. How specific does the essay need to be? It is specific to you. It is all about you, but it is also has to answer the prompt. Don't meander off and talk about general things and other things, however interesting they may be. You are answering a question and your essay should answer that question. Starter points I've already given you. How can I make my essay look attractive without having many extracurricular activities? This is not about extracurricular. This is about you. I mean, children will just write about something very simple like I had a child write about an essay about how he had lived in the same house since he was born and how excited he was to go to college because it was the first time he was going to leave home. It's such a simple thing. In India, at least, we have so many children who are born in the house they live in. And first time going away, he just wrote about that, what all his dreams were, what he was going to bring to the college, all his experiences. So it can be something very simple as long as it tells them about you. And should I include the subjects I'm studying in school in my essay? No, not at all. That's for sure. This is not about your subjects. Okay. Done. Anything else? Colette, are we good?
Yeah, good. Yeah, I covered everything. All okay, students? Yeah. Yes,
Good,
definitely.
sure.
Thank you.
Start writing now.
And
Start writing. Quickly, quickly.
yeah, some of them have already begun. Brought in some
Lovely. Lovely. Get down to it. And now you know what they are looking for. They're looking for you in your essay. Okay? So go and re-look at what you've written and see if you're telling them about yourself.
Thank you so much, Noella.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you. I'll get in touch with you for the next session as well.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry we had to do it in twos because we had a big group coming for
you.
registry.
No problem.
Yeah?
No problem.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Noella. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.